Hello, everyone, and welcome to Michigan's 8th District very first virtual inauguration field trip. I'm really excited to talk about the inauguration, to answer questions from across the district, because this is a really, really important day in our history. It's a historic day. It's when we do the transfer of power, something that's such an important thing in a democracy. And in a normal year, when we didn't have COVID, we'd be able to bring groups of people onto the mall and they'd be able to watch the inauguration from the grass, looking up at the US Capitol. Obviously, because of COVID, we can't have the same thing, but we still wanted to mark the time because it is such an important thing in our democracy. And it's especially important this year because we have a first. We have the first woman and first woman of color to ever become our vice president, Kamala Harris. I know many of you have questions. You've sent in your questions. You videotape your questions. We're going to try and answer as many of them as we can. Thank you for joining us on this great field trip. We're excited.
When was the first inauguration?
Great question. The very first inauguration was put together by George Washington, all the way back, our first president in 1789. But what's interesting about that first inauguration, it actually took place on April 30th, so when it was already springtime. And it had to be scheduled and actually was delayed because it took so long to count the votes and because the weather in winter was really snowy. So just getting from one place to another by horseback was a whole process. And at that point, the US Capitol was New York City, and that was our first inauguration.
Why do they wait so long after the election to officially inaugurate the new president?
Good question. Well, our elections are in November, but it's actually in the Constitution, written into the Constitution, that we have Inauguration Day on January 20th. It's actually the 20th Amendment to the Constitution, but that's to allow the president-elect to gather his team, to work through who's going to be doing what job, to get their policies in order. It's also obviously to count the votes and to make sure we have everything right with the election. And it's just part of our process and has been for a really long time that elections are in November and we work hard, certify the vote, and then get the president-elect's team together for January 20th.
Who runs the inauguration ceremony, and what do the other branches of power do during the ceremony?
Great question, and thank you. I love your flag sitting next to you there, folded really nicely. So the inauguration ceremony is run by a committee, basically, the Joint Congressional Committee on Inauguration Ceremonies. It's actually called the JCCIC. That's an acronym for the committee. And they are responsible for planning and executing the ceremonies at the Capitol. Its members are made up of senators and representatives from both parties, Democrats and Republicans. They plan everything. There's a certain budget set aside to put on the inauguration every 4 years. In terms of what everyone else does, well, the legislative branch, people like me, members of Congress, and the judicial branch, so our Supreme Court justices, we attend and watch this really historic moment.
What is the inauguration process?
Good question, because there's a lot of pomp and circumstance. You'll see stuff on TV, but actually what's written into the Constitution is just that the old president's term ends at noon on the 20th of January, and the new president's term begins at 12:01 on January 20th. And what actually happens, the real meat of inauguration, is that the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, so John Roberts, will swear in the incoming president. The incoming president chooses a Bible or a book to take the oath on. For instance, President Obama actually used President Lincoln's Bible. And we know that President-elect Biden is planning to use, or was planning to use, a Bible that is a personal Bible for him, something he's used for his entire career. He puts his hand on the Bible and swears to protect and defend the Constitution. He takes an oath in front of the cameras, in front of the whole country, and then gives a speech, right? And gives a big speech to the nation, his first official speech as president. That's the real nuts and bolts of what has to happen in every single inauguration.
How will COVID affect Inauguration Day?
So normally, without COVID, thousands and thousands of people would come into Washington, D.C. to watch a president being sworn in. They put jumbo screens up so that people really far away can see what's happening. It's really a big public event. But of course, because of COVID, we had to scale it back. And instead of having thousands and thousands of people on that stretch of grass outside the Capitol, we actually have 200,000 flags, American flags, our state flags. So the state of Michigan flag is going to be flying. Everything was on TV. The goal was to bring as many people into the process while not actually physically being here.
Will President-elect Biden's dogs attend?
Unfortunately, Major and Champ could not attend the inauguration. They're going to be moving into the White House. They've got a new home. They're going to have to get used to that home. And so they're not going to be at the ceremony. They're going to be moving in on moving day into the White House. The cool thing about Major and Champ is this is the first time any American president will have rescue dogs, dogs that, came from a pound that needed help being rescued. This is the first time we're going to have a rescue dog be in the White House, which is pretty cool. And of course, I have two rescue dogs, two rescue puppies. One is 3 months and one is 6 months. So they're super excited to have Major and Champ in the White House. And, we all love dogs, so it'll be fun to see how they get used to their new digs.
Hi, Congresswoman Slotkin. How long is the inauguration ceremony? And also, after the inauguration, what does the president typically do on the first day of the job? Thank you for representing our 8th district.
Thank you, Serena, for your two-part question. So the inauguration ceremony is usually a few hours long. And again, if we didn't have COVID, we would have not only the inauguration ceremony up on the steps of the Capitol, we'd then have a parade where the president walks from the Capitol to the White House down Pennsylvania Avenue. Afterwards, since we're not having parades, the incoming president and the First Lady are going to go to Arlington National Cemetery, the biggest federal cemetery for our military in the entire country, a very solemn place. And they're going to pay their respects at the cemetery at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. This is a continuously guarded tomb for all those who have died in American wars, where we don't know who they were. We don't know, where they come from. And so he'll go and pay his respects. And then normally, on a normal first day, there'd be a bunch of inaugural balls at night, celebrations. And guess what? Usually Michigan would have its own Michigan inaugural ball. But of course, because of COVID, we're not going to have that. But then the president gets right to work. There is no kind of waiting period for the new president. And that first day, there is a ton of meetings in the Situation Room. The first 100 days of any presidency are super busy. They're full of really important meetings. And it's a time when a president sets their own personal tone on the presidency. They come up with their own new policies. They put that out. And whatever a president does in their first 100 days is usually a real strong statement of what they're going to work on really hard in their 4 years as president.
Congresswoman Slotkin, my name is Samantha. I'm Charlotte. Will the Vice President be sworn in at the inauguration? Can you please give us more details on how this will happen? Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte and Samantha, for that joint question. I love that group effort. The answer is yes. Kamala Harris will be sworn in at the inauguration, as Joe Biden will be, and it will mark a really big day in American history. It is the first time we have a woman vice president of the United States. This is something that's a really, really big deal that many people never thought they'd see. We're gonna have a woman in there, and she's a woman of color. So it's a really, really big deal for our country, a really historic event. And Kamala Harris has chosen to be sworn in by one of our Supreme Court justices, a woman named Sonia Sotomayor. And Justice Sotomayor is the first Latina member of the US Supreme Court in American history. So all these women firsts are all involved in the swearing in. This is such a historic event, and I know many, many people watching are super excited about this. And I hope that you all, Charlotte, Samantha, everybody else, especially young women across the district, are thinking about, what are you going to run for? What kind of thing can you do? Class president, right? Student council, run for something, because now we're seeing women at the vice presidential level of our country. It's amazing. I'm super excited about it.
Hello, Congresswoman. My name is Amber. I'm in 2nd grade. I'm 8 years old. I'm going to ask you a question. Have you ever been in the White House before? Bye.
I've actually been at the White House on the first day of a presidency. I worked for George Bush on his last day of office and was there when Barack Obama came into the White House.
My name is Sharana. My main question for you is how you make the inauguration process smoother so that President-elect and Vice President-elect can step right into office and start their term without any issues regarding the past president or anything in the office. Thank you so much and enjoy your day.
Hey, Sharana, that is a great question. And I've actually seen this up close and personal because I was there when President Bush left office and President Obama came in. And then I was at the Pentagon when President Obama was leaving and President Trump was coming in. And it's just a thing that we've gotten to know how to do in American government, where you have a real transition of power. The key thing is that you have a transition team. That's a group of people who are focused on that transfer of power to make sure this goes smoothly. And that's important because it's a really big undertaking. And there's a lot of things, particularly national security things, that will not wait while we have our ceremonies. They just keep on going, and we need the new team ready on day one. So for instance, a little fun fact is there's kind of a cafeteria in the White House. It's called the White House Mess. And the menu gets to be set by whoever the president is. So when George W. Bush was the president, he was from Texas. So you could get a steak there, and you could get something called Frito pie, which I didn't know what that was, but it's a bunch of Fritos and kind of some baked beans or some refried beans. And it's kind of like a Mexican Texas thing that they eat. He left office, the menu got wiped clean, and President Obama got to set the menu. There were things that were from Chicago. I have no idea what Biden is putting on the menu, but it's just an example of how same building, almost the same staff, certainly the same permanent staff, but a really different change, literally overnight, when you have a new president.
How often do you go to the Capitol to make decisions in the House of Representatives?
Well, in terms of my schedule, I lead a kind of a funny life. I'm usually here in Washington. I'm in my office right now, right next to the Capitol, usually Monday through Friday morning. And we're going to meetings, we're in committees, we're marking up pieces of legislation, we're introducing pieces of legislation, we're negotiating with the other side of the aisle and trying to get a compromise piece of legislation. And then we're voting on the House floor. We have a little cool card and we get called to the House floor and we vote. And we've been doing that even though COVID has been happening. We've been voting in shifts so that we're not all on the House floor at the same time. But then usually after the work week is done, I fly home to Michigan. And I live in Holly, and I will spend usually Friday, Saturday, Sunday, maybe Monday until the evening in Michigan doing meetings in Michigan. Maybe I'll be in Lansing, maybe I'll be in Rochester Hills, maybe I'll be in Oxford. And I split my time kind of halvesies. And it's the best thing I've ever gotten to do. It's totally amazing. I am super excited to go to the inauguration. I'm bringing my husband, Dave, and we're going to be sitting on the mall, looking at the Capitol steps, watching this historic event. It's the first time I've ever been invited to one of these, and we're going to bring you along to see behind the scenes of this really important transition of power in our democracy.
Hey everyone, it is a beautiful day, sunny, cool, crisp, windy day here in Washington, D.C. Dave and I are on our way to the inauguration. We've made it through the security. There's lots of security, lots of guard everywhere. Looking forward for a really important day. And frankly, on the walk here, we've been reflecting on where we were 4 years ago. The last time we had an inauguration, actually Dave and I were down in Texas, of all places, canoeing the Rio Grande. And you know, we had not even thought about me running for Congress, and we've been reflecting on how different things are over the past 4 years. We're really excited to see this historic event, a time-honored tradition, the peaceful transition of power. Hey everyone, we just made it through security. We're here as the band is practicing, as people are coming to their seats. The motorcade is arriving at 11 o'clock, so we've got to be in our seats by 10:25. And the energy is really positive. People are feeling good, and there was a lot of security, but everyone was thanking everyone for being here, so we're looking forward to a great event.
Yeah, take care.
And repeat after me. I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear.
I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
the office of President of the United States.
And will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
And if anyone's thinking, I wonder what that's like, just run for something. Just try it. You never know until you run for something. I certainly had never run for something until basically 4 years ago. So it's the greatest thing I've ever gotten to do, and I love it.